I call to order the January 22nd study session, and all council members are here. And I will call up Jason Wilson to kick us off today.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we have two items on the agenda. The first one is the Murray's Disposal annual rate increase. And Mr. Stephens will be starting the presentation and coming up to introduce Mr. Hopkins from Murray's to go over that topic. The second one is an update from our Community Partners Fund recipients. You may recall that during the 23-24 biennial budget, council awarded funds to several different organizations within the community to help them fulfill their mission and then also serve the community as a whole. So we'll be hearing from all of those recipients tonight on how they've used the money thus far. I'll turn it over to Mr. Stephens.
I think maybe we'll talk first in the presentation.
Sure. Mr. Hopkins, you can come up too.
You want?
Oh, yeah, you get to sit
Come
by
right
me.
here.
Oh, perfect. All right.
Lucky you. So good evening, Council and Mayor. We're here tonight to talk about, as Jason mentioned, the annual increase for disposal services in Sumner. The city's contract with the Murrays stipulates that rates will be adjusted annually based on two factors. The first factor is a change in the landfill disposal costs. And in March of 2024, the county will be increasing the landfill rate by $3.61 a ton. So that increased cost for these guys to dispose of the garbage gets turned back to the customers as well. Then there's also an inflationary factor. The contract allows for Murray's to increase by 80% of the local inflation rate, which during this period, that's 3.83%. Also, the contract allows for the contractor to apply for a rate adjustment to reflect unforeseen costs arising during the term of the agreement. As a result of the Washington's Climate Commitment Act, Murray's is asked to pass along the carbon fee that they're paying on fuel purchases to residents of Sumner as part of their garbage rates. Mr. Hopkins is here tonight to kind of talk through all these, give you an update, I'm sure, on all that's new and exciting in the world of garbage disposal. I will go back and start your presentation for you, and I'll be right back.
Thank you. So I'd like to tell you thank you for allowing me to be here and speak, Mayor, Council. It is a privilege to be here and be able to give this presentation. So part of the rate increase is pretty standard, and I think you guys are all very familiar with it. The part that's a little outside of the normal is the carbon fee pass-through. And so I put together a couple slides to just demonstrate a little bit of the impact that it's having on us and addressing one of the questions that was brought up to me about CPI and how it relates to this carbon fee. And so I wanted to take an opportunity to kind of walk you guys through a little bit of that. And then I would be happy to answer any questions from the carbon fee to the rates to you know, all this new and great in the world of garbage and recycling. So I guess we'll start with just CPI and how is it calculated? And this was something that I've had to do a lot of deep diving into and understanding a little bit better. So the CPI for what is built into the contract is the Seattle-Tacoma Bellevue index. It's 80% of that index. The CPI is actually built out of this is the format for it. So it's built up on the standard consumer. So the standard me consumer, standard you guys consumer on how you spend your income as a household primarily. So as you'll see here, energy makes up 6.963% of the total index. Of that, just under 7%, 1 out of 7 pieces of that is the gasoline, which is represented in the CPI. Fuel for Murray's is 11% of our operating costs. And so it shows that our industry is a little bit separate from what the normal consumer would spend. Most people aren't going to spend 11% of their expenses on fuel alone, but Murray's is spending about that much. Murray's uses roughly 3,000 gallons of fuel a day. The carbon fee over the past year on average has averaged 58 cents per gallon. It's climbed up as much as 74 cents per gallon. It's been down as low as, I believe it was right at $1.44 per gallon throughout the 2023 year. On average, Murray's pays anywhere between $35,000 to $40,000 per month in carbon fees. It is a direct result from a change in law. Summers contracts allows for the increase of annual increase of 80% of CPI. So for the 2021 increase, that was 1.72, 2022, 5.23, 2023 is 7.14, giving summer CPI increase from 2020 to 2023 of 14.68. Murray's has experienced a much higher than average CPI or inflation on what drives Murray's numbers. So when you look at the cold rolled steel, this is our containers, container repair, things of that nature. We're seeing an increase of 65%. Trucks on average have gone up 48, or the parts have gone up 48%. Tires 23%, and the new trucks 24%. As you can see, a lot of our increases have far outpaced general CPI. We would always want to have taken a transparent approach to this. So this is every single invoice that we've received throughout there and the carbon fee associated with each one of these. So as you can see, another part of what this carbon fee doesn't exactly relate straight to the CPI. The CPI is taken from a snapshot in October of 2022 to a snapshot in October of 2023, which doesn't take into account the spikes that we see throughout the year. It flows day to day based on the cap and trade market. And so our expenses can be pretty wild up and down. So where our proposal is to essentially state that we would like to look backwards over the prior year of what the average was, and then only associate that cost. We don't want to try and, add anything into addition or anything along those lines. We want to run this as a singular line item so that it's very transparent on the residents' billing, so they know exactly where it is every single year. It would have to come back up before council, make sure that it's still a burden on our business, and something that is still relevant. If for any reason the cap and trade was to be reversed, I know there's discussion about that at the legislature right now. This would just be easily removable. So that would be our approach towards it. And this is just but I think that most of you are probably familiar with this as a clip from the contract, just rate increase, unforeseen cost, is what we're citing under the contract. It's contractors may apply to the city for the rate adjustment to reflect unforeseen costs arising during the term of the agreement, such as fuel tax, charge, government fees, and surcharges. Approval which adjustments shall not be reasonably withheld by the city. So I just wanted to put down, it's a bit of a complicated and a lot of moving parts. And so I was trying to do the best of my ability anyways, kind of lay it out so it's a little bit more understanding. Be very happy to answer any questions that may have come from this.
Can we go back one slide to
Yes,
the
absolutely.
14% one? 2 slides, I guess. So you added all 3 of those together to get the 14?
Yes. It's not a straight add because it compounds on itself a little bit. But my accounting team gave me these numbers.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I am curious about this carbon fee pass through. So you said it's about 30 to 40,000, it costs 30 to
Yes.
40,000.
And I think I probably missed the biggest part. The pass through to the resident would be 19 cents per month. And then on a residential, or I mean on a commercial, depending on service, once, twice, 3, 4 times a week, it depends on how many times we have to go through, it would average anywhere between 28 cents to $2.84 per month, $2.84 being something going 5 days a week.
Oh, if you were having service 5 days.
Commercial, yes, commercially going
Okay.
5 days a week, you would pay $2.84 more per month. Residentially, it'd be
Residential,
flat across because it's not really on service size. It's based upon just fuel usage. And so that's where the 19 cents comes from.
And so you said you can add these because they are considered unforeseen costs. Last year, didn't you have those same costs?
We didn't have enough data to really be able to present a a reasonable, we didn't know what it was gonna do. It was very new to everything. We're still trying to get our feet under us of kind of understanding it better ourselves and didn't feel that it was, we would be able to put it in a way that would, I guess, that we would understand well enough to be able to explain.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Andy?
Yeah, and I, can you go one slide forward? I'm just curious, the rate changes every month? I don't. can you
Yeah.
tell- is there any like layman's way of explaining how does that, what's affect
It's
those changes?
based on the cap and trade market. So whatever carbon credits are selling for dictates a lot of what this pass-through looks like. So what it does is oil companies have to buy carbon credits for whatever carbon's going to be that's associated with their business. They then pass that through in their invoicing to us. And we essentially Murray's runs roughly 200 trucks out of our lot. We essentially run as a fuel station itself. And so on each one of our invoices, it fluctuates depending on what carbon is trading for on the Washington market. It's based primarily off of the market, the cap and trade program out of California, which they ended up actually having to put together their own CPI that address this just because it moves much differently than standard CPI indexes and how they calculate.
Got it.
But
Okay.
we don't really have a separate market right now.
Got it. So just looking at the thing, it looks like it's higher in the May through September, or maybe, and is that because that's the main time people drive? And so the credits go up essentially based on,
Essentially, and it's not just based off of that, it's so industry, they have these auctions. And so then business comes in and then they buy, it's way outpaced it's gone up to $50 per carbon credit, and some companies have to buy a lot of carbon credits. So it's very much a determination off of that, and we kind of don't know too much until the auction actually happens. And that's when we got a better idea of what it's going to be, but then they trade, which is what creates this volatile, and as you can see, it changes from invoice to invoice. So us trying to figure out the best way to capture what this looks like is by coming up with an average of what has happened, not what we believe is going to happen, because we really don't, the theory behind it is that this is going to level out and come back down and be more in line with what they thought originally. We haven't seen that, but it very well may have, and we just don't want to project out with an assumption of either too high or too low. We just want it to be actual. Back to our goal is not to capture a new revenue stream or anything along those lines. It's really just trying to remain as whole as possible. We take a lot of pride in reinvesting. We've got to pay, and I'm sure everybody's under these same pressures, but the wage market for us to keep safe professional drivers out on the road, we need to be able to continue to reinvest in them. Our trucks are aging. We have to continue to reinvest in new trucks. And in that sense, with some of the point behind this is to try and spur along new innovations and being a little bit more effective with with how we utilize our fuel usage. Both of those things we're actually doing. So we're in the midst of actually reorganizing routing to make sure that we're as efficient as possible right now. Plus, as a larger company of Waste Connections, we are investing in clean energy sources. We've purchased 7 fully electric trucks at this point. The technology is far from there. But we do believe that's a clean energy source that's probably more viable in our future. At least that's where our company's kind of hedging our bets. But the trucks right now cost twice as much. So one of our standard ASLs costs us, an ASL is your residential trucks, the stuff that goes around the neighborhood. One of those costs right around $500,000 right now. A fully electric one costs about $1 million, and they have about a quarter of the lifespan of what we would get out of a truck. So the technology just really isn't there at the rates of what we run, but we're invested and we're trying to be part of the solution. But that takes each one of our districts, including myself, trying to make sure that we remain whole as we work through it.
so if I was to go to the gas station and pay for it, would I see on my receipt a percentage similar to that?
No, but they would have that in there, and that's where I wanted to be kind of clear on the CPI, right? Because the CPI does capture a piece of this, but your fuel versus just this kind of like the cream at the top is what we're getting hit by at a pretty heavy rate comparative to what is captured in that CPI, and that's why we're requesting this, is it's not really an apples to oranges, but yes, but no, you probably wouldn't see it as a line item, but be, any of those.
But you guys are able to get that from the
Yeah.
gas provider.
Because, but we're purchasing fuel at like, 12,000 to 15,000 gallons at a top, and they're coming every other day for us, so
Okay.
we've got a different kind of invoice system.
Okay,
And it
one,
would be fully auditable by anybody. Back to our main thing is being as transparent as possible. We don't want anything kind of, under disguise or anything like that. Will be, if anybody wanted to take a look at it, see how it's going throughout the year, we would be very happy to provide any of that documentation.
one more question, sorry. Oh, all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're proposing to do this like on a regular, like yearly basis, just looking at like a 11 month, I guess, look back,
Yep.
and that's your
Every
goal?
year I'd be back here, giving a rundown of where we're looking at, how the market's traded. If it's coming down, I'd have the same information or more, whatever, you may view as something that would be important for you to see. We'd be happy to come in, but every year it'd have to be revoted. It's not like it's just a renewable situation. It would be every year re-look at it.
Yeah, and that is actually required by the contract. The only things that are guaranteed in the contract are the pass-through of the tipping fees and 80% of the inflation. So anything else, they would have to come back and ask for year after year. It wouldn't be automatic.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, absolutely.
So last year, there was talk about composting at the commercial sites and then also increasing but we could put in our compost or our yard waste. And how's that program going?
Well, that is a good part. So we're actually doing really well. So as of right now, we are set up that you can compost out of your residential at this right now. We are ready. We've set our systems up. We're good to go. As of April, tentatively, because we're kind of waiting on the county, because we want to make sure that we get forward in one group. We will be doing a full campaign of allowing that. It's essentially anything that you eat can go into your container. Coffee filters and tea bags would be able to go in there, but we're really kind of wanting to stay away from getting too far away from the what you can eat can go. And the reason for that is that there's a lot of different biodegradable products that they sell in the market that are questionable. And so plus it reduces the quality of our end product. We take a lot of pride in the end product of our compost right now, is something that's actually sought after. A lot of the larger development companies go after the Silver Springs Organics product because of the quality that we manage in it. So we want to maintain that consistency, but right now we are fully set up. Our systems, our facilities are ready and capable of taking on the increase. We expect about a 5% increase in organics coming through our residential program with this. And in April, we're going to actually make a push, and we are ready to, as of right now, Murray's, I'd love to start campaigning now, but I also want to make sure that we stay in lockstep with our partners so that we're not getting in front of them, and we make sure we're coming out with the same message.
So that's when you'll do, educating the public and getting.
Yeah, and that's something that I know that if that's something that you I'd love to partner with you and figure out what does a campaign look like in Sumner so that people would understand what it is. We'd be happy to be involved in anything along those lines.
Okay, well, it's good to hear.
Yeah, I was excited about that part. For a lot of what we get to talk about, that was a good one. I like when we can make those positive steps forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I do have a comment, but Earl, do you?
Oh, you're too
Put it over
close. I can't see that finger.
It's too close.
Thank you for the presentation. I've got a couple of questions. There's a lot of numbers on this sheet and there's a lot of numbers on the slides. So basically, bottom line, for the average consumer in the city of Sumner, our rates are going to go up I'm looking at $10 or 10-gallon cart, $1. Is that a week or a month? $1.07
Yep. The-
Very top line.
Per month,
per month.
yes.
What is the average homeowner? What's the size of their cart?
Average homeowners is the 65 gallons, our most popular cart. That would go up at a 4.79% increase on.
Okay, so that rate's going up 337 according to the sheet. Am I reading that right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
54.
Am I off the line? Oh, there it is.
Thank you. 54, correct.
I gotta do this and then get out of the way.
That's where I had to like pull my paper over.
Okay, so I got two questions, actually maybe three. I'll try to be quick. So Sumner, how many customers do you have in Sumner roughly?
I do not know. I can get that.
No, that's okay. I
can get that information. to
I'm
you.
just painting a picture of how big Sumner's customer base is compared to Puyallup, compared to Auburn, or maybe even Bellevue.
Yep.
Do you have contracts in King County?
We don't have any contracts in King County. We do operate some in the open markets when it comes to construction debris, but not in the
Okay.
residential services.
And that's I'm curious. So anyway, comparing Sumner to, say, a larger city,
Mhm.
would they have the same rate increase even though they have a bigger customer base?
So it'd be this, essentially what it's based off of is the contract language. You guys are at 80% of CPI. Others are, nobody's lower than that. Others are up at 100% of CPI.
So it depends on the
So
terms
it
of the
depends on
contract.
terms in the contract, absolutely. But it's not really based on like, the individual, size of the community.
Sure.
It has more to do with just like a operating cost,
Okay.
to service.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Now, a question on one of the slides you had there, the individual cost increases in materials and your
Mhm.
vehicles and things like that. So is there ever a time when, I mean, that's all conjecture. I mean, if you, like the city puts together a budget that determines a utility rate.
Yep.
Based on the cost of materials and equipment and personnel. What if you don't replace any of the garbage trucks? Is that expense then credited to customers?
No, it wouldn't, but there's never really a time that we don't buy garbage trucks or we don't have to reinvest in a lot of this. And the reason being is that if we fall behind, so we average somewhere between 10 and 15 trucks that we're gonna buy every single year. If we fall behind that, it's a slippery slope in expenses as well, just asset utilization for us. It's a important side of it. We don't fluctuate a lot on, that's why I didn't add like we paid exactly this much on trucks, and it's more of just like a overall general view of where we've been at. Now, the purpose of that slide wasn't necessarily to, hey, look at how far off all of these things are. It's more trying to show that we're just trying to remain whole in this aspect of things, that we're not necessarily, just doing real well in the inflation metrics.
Okay, I know there's a whole lot more to costing vehicles and replacement reserves and all that stuff. And so I appreciate how you explain that. What can we as consumers do to make this less of a burden if we're underemployed or we have problems paying our bills? When you look at this, I mean, we're talking about, I think she said 254 an increase. That looks pretty small, but if you look back a few years, instead of paying $64.59, or wait a minute, $49, we might have been paying $25. And so big jumps in the prices kind of hurt individually. What can we do to drive or make that cost a little lower so our bills aren't so high?
Well, we would be happy to work with the city in looking at possibilities of possible like a low income assistance or it'd have to come through a,
The modification
amendments
of the
and things of that
contract.
nature in the contract. But we're always we want to be community partners and we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, not only for us, but it needs to be, it needs to be a partnership in that aspect of it. So you always have, I would be happy to talk through, concerns with that and possible solutions, in the future. I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Jason, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to make one point of clarification to one of your questions, Mr. Stewart, about the carbon fee. While other cities are considering Murray's request, some cities have also said they're not going to consider it. So I don't know if there's any consistent decision at this point of what cities are going to do, because you're
So.
correct, they're making
Yeah.
similar
So,
requests.
so the only city that we know of that's just outright said, hey, not right now is Ording. Ording is, their contract's up this year, and we're going into contract renegotiation. And then their summary of why, they felt that it was better, a better time to have that discussion during the contract renegotiation of it. That was the explanation that they'd given to us. I can say that for us in Carbonado and South Prairie have, the UTC is expected to also pass this. They did pass this for Puget Sound Energy. So they've kind of set precedents and made it known that they do plan on continuing that out. So on a UTC basis, that's, we do have their support. Believe we have their support. They've kind of publicly came out with it. But each city is yes, taking, it's not just a rubber stamp for sure. We gotta come in and have our explanation in place. And we believe that it is reasonable. We believe that we're being transparent. We believe that it's a fair request. And it's pretty much just laying it out there for everybody though.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. So if I were to summarize, these are the things I see and I think I've heard, because to Councilman Stewart's point, there's a lot of numbers. But this increase is a makeup of the disposal cost going up.
Yep.
The landfill rate going up.
Correct.
80% consumer price index, and you go from October to October and you watch the market rate. Is that where you determine that?
The CPI it's just, so there's actually an index that
Sure.
is just, it doesn't change. It's just gonna be what it is. And it comes out November 15th, about mid-month will come out, and it's every other month that comes out.
Right,
We,
but in your note here, it says you go October to October.
October to
So that's your
October.
rolling
so
12
that
months.
increase, yes,
Yeah.
whatever CPI increase from there to there, and then 80%, that's what.
And then your unforeseen costs are in here.
Plus is the carbon fee, correct.
Okay, so that's the only thing. That's
the
what
only
makes that
thing
up.
That's on the side, yeah.
And then, so that's the carbon fee. And then the question around your customer base, so you're predominantly Pierce County.
Correct.
Right? So with that said, what other kind of questions are you getting from the other towns?
You guys are right in line with what we're hearing. The essential, and then why I put this together was the main question is this already captured in CPI? I think that's the main question. I want to be very, upfront with what that is. That is the main, because we do have a CPI component to it. Where we're showing, what I'm hoping to be able to illustrate is that this carbon fee is not accurately caught in the CPI adjustment. And it's definitely not a reflection of our industry in the way that our costs are reflected with it. It does pose a burden to us. We've got about a $500,000 shortfall with this change in law. And that's what we're hoping to illustrate. And that's the main question though. Every one of the cities, that's been the question.
Is the carbon tax?
Carbon tax for sure.
CPI?
Is the carbon or is the carbon fee, we've been told, don't call it a tax.
Well-
Is the carbon fee
Already in the
already
CPI?
in the CPI?
So that's what I'm wondering.
Yes, it is, but that's what this presentation was about, it is in there, but it's 1/7 of a part of 7% of CPI.
So then these are additional factors. That's what I'm trying to understand. So the disposal cost is additional factor, the landfill rates, or is it all inclusive? That's what this doesn't differentiate for me.
So the landfill increase is one component.
Mhm.
The CPI is one component, and we do not believe that the carbon fee is accurately captured in the CPI, and that's why we're asking for that as an unforeseen. So it's three parts.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully I was able to answer that.
That's all right. Yeah.
Oh, we gotta get Pat here. Go ahead, Pat.
Okay, I'm so sorry to do this, but, okay, so I'm having a really hard time wrapping my mind around like this 19 cents. That's really, really small, but when you have a ton of them, as well as 284 here, 227 there, I mean, that really adds up, right? So, I just, companies, there is a cost of doing business.
Mhm.
And this is the cost, one of the costs of doing business. But companies also make a ton of money. So this might cost, it may cost Murray's $500,000, I think is what you said. How much is Murray's profits each year?
I don't have exacts. I could get back to you on kind of where we're at.
I don't really need a number, but I think it's way more than $500,000. That's really sort of what I was.
Yes, we definitely have more than a $500,000 of profit in a year. You are correct. It's but when we look at the margin of what the negotiated out contracts are and the cost of us to be able to reinvest into our system, that's essentially my job is to try and make sure that we keep that whole so that we can continue to reinvest not only in the equipment and our people, but our communities. Anybody that's done business with us knows that we're active in our communities, actively give back. But yes, we are a for-profit business at the end of the day, and so I do understand that part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you. Couple of things. I just noticed down here for the yard waste that there's nothing in the column for carbon fee.
No, because we're already going through for the trash. So we basically just did it all for only the garbage. So we didn't go into, and then this much for
Okay.
additional services. It was just based off of trash service alone.
And then I don't want to put you on the spot, and I certainly don't want to be offensive with this comment. Do you consider yourself a monopoly?
No, and I'll kind of, we're a utility. And so is a utility company, just like other utility companies, we have to every year, not every year, every time the contract renew, we have to show that we're actively a participant in after the city's benefit. If you had 6 different garbage companies running up and down your road, the infrastructure is gonna take an absolute beating. So we're a necessity in a lot of ways of making sure that it's, but that's when the contract comes up. If we're not doing our part, if we're not active community members, if we're not responsible with, then you guys are always able to change up who you have as a hauler. My job is to make sure that we're an active community partner, that we are taking the residents' interest in mind, that we are not taking advantage of people. That is something that I take a lot of pride in myself. But so monopoly, I don't believe so. We're a utility and just as other utilities, there is that sense of it. And I don't take offense. Not the first time I've heard it. But I do feel that we're not monopoly in that sense, as far as you do have a choice. But it makes sense to not destroy your infrastructure by running multiple trucks up and down.
Sure. No, I understand it's with,
You are regulated.
We are very regulated. We're a very regulated industry.
well, the trucks never fail to pick my garbage up and my
Great.
yard waste, and I'm very thankful. I'm just a little bit bewildered because if someone who lives in the city of Sumner and is a customer wants to remodel their house and they want to get a yard or a dumpster or whatever to put all the garbage in, they have to go to you. They can't go to someplace else that might be a little cheaper. Can you explain why that is?
It's really, it comes down to the agreement with the city and the utility part of it.
So it's
So
part-
even
I
if you
understand
guys
that.
didn't have, let's say you had no contract, the state of Washington would put us under the UTC. It would still only be one spot. I think the city, you guys could pretty much do what you want as long as you wanted to contract with people for that service. But in most areas, when it's competitive nature, in the recycle markets, they would have choices but when it comes to the garbage, it's very highly regulated by the UTC, which is kind of where we end up.
Okay, so if we decide at some point in the future that we want to have a competitive process for contractors' waste, let's say, or homeowners' construction waste, that would be part of the contract.
Well, it would have to, so essentially when our contract ended, then you guys would be able to put it out with what they call an RFP, and then you would take bids in from others, and then that's where that would come into place.
Yeah, I'm familiar with those, so we'll look forward to that the next time. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I had one quick
Oh.
comment. I was just listening to the comments. I just wanted to just for the record, just note that the city of Tacoma, you guys don't service them. They have their own service. right?
Okay, they have their own, the city actually runs that through their own utilities.
Got it. And I'm looking at their rates because that's done by the city, so they're not really worried about profits.
No, they're,
They're more of a utility, and their costs are for a 60-gallon container, their costs for 2024 are about $2 per. For a 60-gallon container, they're charging $53.47, and for a 65-gallon container in Sumner, you guys are $51.58. So it looks like even though you're making a profit, you're actually more efficient than the city of
we
Tacoma.
do run more efficient.
Okay,
That's-
I just wanted to mention that because there's a little.
Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
So
No, we try and be good stewards of everybody's, that we know that we don't take any of, this is a privilege. As I sat up here to start, that I believe that it's a privilege that you guys allowed me to talk today. And I believe it's a privilege that we get to do business within the city of Sumner. I really do. And we want to be good stewards with everybody's businesses.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
So real quickly, as far as next steps, the rates that were attached in Exhibit A today have been published as required by law. We have to publish these rates, so they have been published. The proposed rates would go into effect March 1st, and this will be coming back to council for approval. The resolution at the next regular council meeting, which is February 5th, I believe.
Got that?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hopkins.
Feel free to reach out to me with any questions that may come up between now and then that you may have. I appreciate you guys' time so much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Community Partners Fund updates, and I will call on Community and Economic Director Ryan Windisch.
Thank you, Mayor. And City Council. This evening is a opportunity for our community partners to present in the 2023-2024 budget process. The City Council chose to fund certain community partners, and we have 5 of them that were funded. They had to go through a process of applying during the last budget cycle, and the council selected these organizations to provide social, economic, and housing services that benefit our residents and businesses. And the total budget for the fund during this last budget cycle was $200,000. And the city entered into agreements with each of these organizations. And tonight we'll hear from each of them, a 5-minute presentation to tell us how they are using the funds for their mission and their work. And we have a presentation that Jeff is putting up. Give me a second. And our first presenter tonight is and Holly Emerson.
I'm Holly Emerson and I'm Secretary of the Board of Directors for Mikasa Housing. And we have all of our board officers here this evening. Steve Miller, who's our board president. Terry Clark, who's our vice president. Nanette Flynn, our treasurer. And I'm the secretary for the board. And so we just want to start off by giving a heartfelt thank you for selecting Mikasa to receive $10,000 in community support funds in our effort to provide affordable housing for low-income families. Your support has been truly appreciated. For 32 years, Mikasa, with its all-volunteer board, has provided permanent and affordable housing in the Puyallup and Sumner communities. We have a total of 38 units, and 18 of those are in Sumner. And we've got a few pictures here of what our buildings look like from the outside. We have 3 two-bedroom fourplexes here in Sumner and 2 three-bedroom triplexes, and they're located just a few blocks north of your Fred Meyer Shopping Center. The 18 units that we have here in Sumner provide housing for up to 64 children and adults. Our rental household size ranges from 2 to 7 people, with the majority consisting of single moms and their children. Last year, the average household income was $48,600 for these families. These households are all 30 to 50% below the area median income, which is determined by Pierce County. Our rents range from a low of $590 a month to a high of $1,877 a month. And as you know, that is far below the standard market rate in our area for 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. Our goal is to keep rents at 30% of a family's income. All our Sumner properties were purchased under funds from the Pierce County Home Program and the Washington State Housing Trust Fund. Mikasa strives to keep its properties safe and attractive and free from the stigma of poverty, so that when children come home from school, the house looks like everybody else's in the neighborhood. In August of 2022, we replaced the roof and repaired the gutters and downspouts of one of our triplexes here in Sumner. In April of that year, we installed a stormwater management system for another triplex that had standing water in the backyard. And in 2020, we completed a major exterior and interior renovation of our 3 fourplexes, including renovation of the kitchens. Your $5,000 in grant monies for 2023 was used to offset the necessary expenses of water and sewer, fire insurance, lawn care, routine maintenance and repairs, and property management. These funds helped ensure these properties were safe and well-kept homes for our tenants, and covered 5.8% of our total costs in these areas for these 5 rental buildings in 2023. In our last yearly review, I noticed 2 things that speak to the success of Mikasa. Several families had an increase in income of over $10 an hour or more in the past year. Or they had new jobs that paid significantly more than in previous years. And we believe that the stability in their housing was an important factor in their being successful and will help in their moving out of poverty. Also, several families have children in college. And the stability in their housing these past several years allowed them to be able to stay in school, to make friends, and to excel in their education. And this is an important step in breaking the cycle of poverty and changing their circumstances and simply living out their dreams. These 2 things are always a benefit in any community, as we all strive to help people better their lives and find stability in housing. And so again, I want to say thank you for supporting Mikasa Housing, and we look forward to a successful 2024. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions from the council? Councilmember Potato.
When did the program start? How long have you been doing?
32 years.
32 years.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
well, good.
We incorporated in 1991.
91. Okay.
Anybody
Well,
else?
Sounds like a great program.
Thank you. We do have brochures on the table here in the back if you want to have those.
Councilmember Cole.
I thought I read that, all of the, well, you don't really have employees, all volunteers. Am I correct? Okay, I just thought that that was fantastic that, there are a group of people who are so giving to help others, you know, throughout the day, to work a job, to volunteer to work, to do that, to help others.
When Mikasa first started, the people that started it, they did the lawn care and minor repairs and so forth. And with one building, that's not too onerous, but now that we have 12 buildings, that would be impossible for our small team to do those things. And so we do have professional property management that make sure that everything is safe and sound and
Wonderful commitment to humanity, I would say. Also, in your brochure, does it explain how people can apply to get into the housing? How would somebody go about applying to get into one of your units?
we get referrals mostly from the social services
Okay.
organizations, schools, nurses and counselors know about us. And so we have a number and they call that number.
So could I just look that up if I knew somebody that needed help?
Yeah.
And then I can help them
And that,
connect
and
with
the
you?
number is,
in there?
and the information is in that brochure.
Okay, thank you.
253-8393. Yeah, we did. So I'm just curious. So so somebody is in your housing, you said a lot of single moms with kids, which is great. So how do you guys handle it? So it's permanent housing, do they, like somebody gets remarried, their income triples and they're doing well, do they get to stay there with I mean, how does that work? Is
Well,
that
we
a
can't
goal?
Evict people simply because they make too much money. But there are people who do not qualify based on their housing income. And so we can say that your income is too great and, you know, encourage them to leave. But there is in our contract over income language that allows us to increase the rent so that it reflects more of the market rate, which should encourage them to move and make it available for others.
Thank you. Sure, I appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
We cannot evict because you're over income. We do raise the rents. Try to maintain 30% of the household income. We could take that up to, I think it's HUD fair market rent. Beyond that, they get a good deal. One of your triplexes in Sumner and another, we lost a partial tax exemption this year because of over income tenants. So it costs us when they go, but we really can't pass that on.
Thank you.
Very good. Our next presentation will be by Marilee Hill Anderson from Sumner Bonnie Lake School District. And she'll be presenting on the Sumner Bonnie Lake Family Center.
Good evening. Some new faces. I am Marilee Hill Anderson, Director of Community Engagement. You've gotten calls from me at 6 a.m. I think one day, or an invitation to the superintendent's breakfast. And much like our previous presenter shared, we can't thank you enough for your support. We would not have a Sumner Bonnie Lake Family Resource Center without you. And the slide you have in front of you reflects really the four main government partners that help fund one position, our Family Resource Navigator, Ida Cortez. The city of Sumner, you have given us $35,000 a year and promised that for 2 years. So that's a $70,000 commitment at $35,000 a year. 30 goes into a salary and benefit package and 5 goes into programming. The district picks up what other partners cannot, provides the facility as well as a portion of the salary through our enrichment program and operations levy. The health department, we're excited to say they just renewed us for another 3 years of funding at $30,000 a year and might have some funding for us in addition to that. The city of Bonnie Lake is offering us $12,000 a year to help complete that funding package for our coordinator. And we have over 36 other partners. I just really want to thank Sumner Rotary as well as the Gordon Family YMCA. So that's really the foundation of funding for this one position that does so much work of the center. Because some of you are new, I'll speed through this really quickly, but I want to let you know that we don't just say, hey, what should we do today? That we're operating on guiding principles from the National Family Support Network. Parent resilience, how do we help parents handle stress and tough times? How do we help families build social connection? Not everything can be fixed with money. How do we rely on each other? How do we build friendships? Parents talking to other parents about, yes, 2-year-olds really behave this way, right? You know, concrete support in times of need, of course. We're trying to help families find the money they need to survive. Rent prices going up, food prices going up, utility prices going up, all impact our families. But just this year, we helped 9 people, just 9 residents in Sumner with this one thing, filling out a SNAP, a food application. But each of those families was able to bring in about $6,000 a piece in extra funding, right, for food. So 9 families, we helped at 1 to 2 hours a piece, brought this community $54,000 worth of food security back into the community, because you are funding someone to sit down, a real person with a real person, and walk through difficult times and help them get through difficult applications. That's just an example of some things that we do. Knowledge of parenting and child development, and again, that competence of children, helping them to self-regulate. The areas of work I'll be going through in just a second, but Ida Cortez, our resource navigator, is amazing, bilingual, bicultural, are the polls right in the way here. The classes, groups, and events, you'll see some pictures in a second. We also have partnerships with Sound Outreach and United Way for the Center for Strong Families. That program in and of itself brings in $150,000 to $200,000 worth of staff time a year to help our families with employment and financial coaching. And finally, our Latinx Family Advocacy Project is co-funded right now by the Pierce County Youth Violence Prevention Grant, and Sumner Bonnie Lake School District has pitched in to fill the gap for a few months, and that family has grown substantially, project. We are just seeing numbers go way up. COVID is over and behind us. People stayed away and called us during the pandemic when we couldn't have people come to us. They're coming back. These are just Sumner numbers. Our numbers are obviously much higher, but our goal that we promised you at least was 200 people walking in. We had 269 people just from Sumner, and that was up, you can see, from 141 back in 2021. Our calls for help, I think that we did not track those accurately. We figured out that we're not tracking the calls from our own school counselors, helping dozens, if not hundreds more of your children and families in the community, but those are up as well. The Diaper Bank is a brand new program. 410 clients came in just from Sumner to get diapers. That's over 10,000 diapers that were given out to families. That's something that they can't get help with in many other places. And then finally, personal care items, 313 sacks of everything from shampoo to conditioner and body soap, et cetera. Because again, our families cannot get this through other kinds of benefits programs. I know I've probably got like 2 minutes left here, so I'll speed talk here. I'm well known for those of you that are new to getting pretty passionate about what we do. So, but I wanted to give you some numbers. My colleagues here who do amazing work gave you much more thorough data reports, and I'm happy to come back with more numbers. But I'm so excited. We are joined at the hip with the city of Sumner when it comes to giving out backpacks and school supplies and food and lots of community resource information at our back to school events. You can see those numbers in front of you. These are some of our larger events. So we're very excited, and I want to thank everybody from the city of Sumner, including our wonderful mayor, for helping. And we're super excited that we have 18 ongoing students from Sumner really trying to learn the English language. All the college classes are full. They can't get in there. So our Tacoma Area Literacy Council program is exploding. We have probably 25 to 30 people coming. 18 of them live right here in the 98390. And then a new sewing class now happening. Councilmember Botetto started this. It had died off after COVID, but now we've got 4 to 6 people coming every week, just building that community, right? Learning a skill. we're still here, but watch out. You've been supporting us now for about 3 decades. But again, I've talked to you about the Sound Outreach and Center for Strong Families program. Beginning of 2023, we had 14 people. We had 74 people in that program getting help. 10 people got jobs in the fourth quarter of last year. I'm so excited. I just want to jump up and down. In our Latinx Family Advocacy Project a year and a half ago, 5 families. We have 30 parents now from the city of Sumner, plus all of their children, and they served 240 unduplicated clients, Spanish-speaking parents who face barriers connecting with our system, right? Again, one-to-one help, advocacy, people listening to them. We now have a Latinx Parent Advisory Council of 10 people, now growing to 15, who are now volunteering at all of those other programs that you've seen. We are excited. I hope you'll have us back to be able to tell you more. And I thought I'd throw a few pictures up there too. Just to let you know, another partnership we have with the city of Sumner. We love the Sumner Police Department through the Sumner Toy Box. Ida, who is in the top right, smiling. She's glad because her shift was over. We served 173 families and 513 children in partnership with the Sumner Police Department for holiday support, and 167 meals, I think, went out through the Emmanuel Food Pantry. And again, your Sumner PD took the lead, but we coordinated all of the referrals. And Ida worked the entire time to make sure that everybody who came through could be understood, translation, check them off the list. That's how we do it here in Sumner. We are better together, and we're so blessed to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, Councilwoman Potato.
Okay. So politically correct, is it Latinx now, not Hispanic families? I mean, can you explain that change of term?
Well, I'm going to answer this in kind of a different way.
Okay.
The Puget Sound ESC has titled their program Latinx Family Advocacy Project. So one of the things we know in our equity work is that we try to use the terms and the phrases that our partners use, and our person who is bilingual, bicultural is choosing that term for her program. So we use that as well. And again, that's part of just getting to know our families and our partners and using what feels comfortable to them. So that question has some different answers, but that's our answer for now. Thank you.
Just have to
Yes.
update.
Thank you for asking. That's how we learn though. Thank you.
Somebody else? Any questions for Mary Lee?
Yes.
I'm just curious. I'm looking at the things you guys provide, like the backpacks, and then there's some sewing and some literacy. Are there some things that people are coming to you with that you're wishing that you, like, are there things that are different that have changed in the last couple of years that you're seeing that a lot more people are coming in?
Yes. Has anybody noticed that laundry detergent is now under lock and key at Target? Diapers are now under lock and key, right? The things that are $10, $15 or more that you can't get from a SNAP benefit card, we're having a lot of people come to us for that help. Calvary raised about 50 containers of laundry detergent for us. Rotary just brought a number of things to us. Those are the kinds of things that we're getting more requests for. But honestly, it's rent. It's just help with rent. Single moms, I can't thank Mikasa enough for what they do. And we partner with, I think we have you on speed dial, but Helping Hand House, those are the things that we're really trying to help, especially our single parents with. But laundry detergent, you want to have a drive? We're there for you. We will take your laundry detergent. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I didn't pay him to ask that question, so.
We have a comment
Just
from.
one real quick comment.
Yeah.
So I love your spirit and I love your passion.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
anything
Oh,
I won't, we're not gonna let her talk, but anything I could do, I would be happy to help.
Coffee? Let's do
Coffee,
it. All
yep.
right. Thank you.
I am on the board of a church, so I think we could help. We're a offshoot of Calvary.
Oh, we would love that. And Calvary has been an amazing partner for us with our community summits. I don't know if you're aware. They have done so much for us as well.
Okay, you've got my number. I know you do.
I had to call her.
Councilmember Potato.
So can you talk a little bit about the Heath Family Fund and the type of support it's giving families?
Okay. Well, I can't talk about the Heath Family Fund without talking about Councilwoman Potato because she's treasurer at Sumner Rotary. and I don't want to say partner in crime, that doesn't look good in a study session, but Bill and Jane Heath cared very deeply about serving the children and students of this community. And in their estate, they both passed away. Bill was a former longtime principal of Sumner High School, the Heath, obviously complex, sports complex. His 3 adult children gifted Sumner Rotary $30,000 for us to use to help our families in need. And we have gone through about 2/3 of that now. I think we have about $9,000 left in that account, but we've been very, very careful in terms of helping families who just couldn't pay rent, just couldn't pay utilities, if our help would allow them to stay put, right? We've already had over 210 referrals for homeless students here in the Sumner Bonnie Lake School District just since September. So when I talk about how critical those rent pricing issues are, I mean, Heath Fund has helped with that, but you also helped with things like shoes and take, things that kids needed to participate in sports. So grateful for that Heath Fund. And that's another way the Sumner Rotary Club has helped us. And again, Barb's on speed dial. So Councilmember Potato. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lee. I think your 5 minutes is up.
Hey, you asked questions. What did I do? Thank you very much, Mayor Hayden.
Next up is the Sumner Community Food Bank and CEO Anthony Apellis. Can you present?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Good to be in front of you again. We are echo some of the same comments that were shared previously. Could not be more pleased with the support that we've had from the Sumner and just the partnership. It's been amazing, just the support that we feel it every single day. So I'm gonna just kind of share with some highlights on, people always ask me, how's the food bank doing? And I always hesitate to answer that question because, if I say great, is that good or is that bad? But this is some of the numbers that we had last year. So we had another record-breaking year. You can see just the chart above shows our clientele base. So from 2022 to 2023, we increased 43% of the people that were walking through the front door. If you drive by there on any given day, you'll see a line in the morning. It doesn't make us feel good that there's a line, but what makes us feel good is we have plenty of food. The chart below shows the amount of the pounds of food that we received last year. So at the end of 2023, we had an increase over the previous year of 25%. Outbound, we sent out by December 31st last year, we sent out over 4.4 million pounds of food. That is incredible amount of food. The Sumner Food Bank does not have a food problem. In fact, we do have a food problem. I've got so much of it, I'm running out of places to store it. We are operating out of 2 sites. We're leasing a warehouse space down here in the valley, and we operate out of the food bank as well. So, there's goodness in that, but the lines keep increasing. The demand keeps going up. Next slide. This is our support network. So it's not just people that walk through the front door that we provide nourishment to. We support over 50 other food banks, pantries, resource centers, outreach programs, churches, senior centers. Now, we don't support all these agencies all at once, but many of them we support on a weekly basis. Some of them just on an as-needed basis, but last summer we asked these agencies to conduct a survey. How many people are you touching? And they came back, we collected all of the data, and it was over 57,000 people. So our services are felt well beyond the city limits of Sumner. Our food supply, you can see this is a snapshot of the warehouse on the upper right-hand corner. Some great news last year, and I apologize for the typo. It's not 2022, it's 2023. We received a WSDA grant of $490,000. So this is just for food purchases that we get to spend over the next 2 years. Our warehouse is absolutely full. We have a wonderful supply network with all the trucking companies, the logistical companies here in the valley. So not only do we have a good relationship with our supply network, but now we have the WSDA grant that we are able to purchase high quality food for our patrons. Down below, you can see we purchased a new truck recently, a new box truck. So now we have 2 large box trucks and they are reefer trucks. So that's an added capacity for cold storage, which is of the premium. It's nice to have food, but when you need to store the cold stuff, it's hard to find space. Can you go back, Brian, one more slide? Another WSD DA grant that we received in 2023 was $100,000 that we're able to buffer some of the staffing costs. And the next slide kind of shows you what our budget for 2024 in regards to our payroll, $338,000. It's about 41% of our operating budget. Next slide shows you what we used our community partner funds for. Last year, it was to hire Sarah Graham. So we had a need for a marketplace manager inside the food bank. $16,000 went towards her salary. $4,000 was deferred to administration costs. And we plan to use this year's funds for similar purposes. We just recently hired Lincoln Metler as a full-time driver for us now. So we'll be using the funds in the same way. Questions?
Any questions?
I did have a question. I was looking at the inbound, outbound, and it looks like your outbound
Outbound's higher?
was higher, but you said you're full still. Seems like you'd be, how does that work?
Yeah, we still have a large amount of inventory.
How much
that's
do you
in the
store? How many
warehouses.
pounds?
What's that?
Do you know how many pounds you store?
It's in part of the inbound.
Okay.
Measure that we have there. What I have there right now, I have over 100 pallets. I know I always get that question. How can you give out more than you actually receive? I think it's accumulated balance, the period that just rolls through the year, so.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I did have a room just.
Oh, okay.
So, kind of taking off what Andy asked, so if you were to convert it in months, if you just looked at average months of food on hand based on the number of people coming in to utilize the service, about how many months do you have between the 2 warehouses?
Boy, that's a great question. We've never done that calculation.
Mhm. And I suppose you'd have to average it kind of over what people come in and consume, right?
Yeah,
What are they
and
coming
you know
in?
what those numbers are? We've just never done the math. So I think it's a great question. On the average, people walk out of the food bank with 75 to 100 pounds. They're allowed to visit once every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Um,
It just might be a good metric, so you know if you're
Sure.
gonna get behind the curve or not.
Yeah. Because of the fact that you saw the slide that has all the agencies that we support,
Mhm.
that is our buffer because the volume of food that we have, we don't have enough clients to even make a dent in that.
Okay,
Most of our food goes outside of the food bank to the other community agencies that we support. We just have that much food.
great.
It's a unique model for a food bank where there's a lot of dependency on government agencies or just pure donations. It's because of the partnership that we have with the business community, the truck drivers, the logistical companies. That's where the biggest volume of our food comes from.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else? Councilmember Cole.
I just want to say one thing about the food bank in particular. I love the food bank. I volunteered there for a little bit, but and it was my first time ever being inside a food bank, and I was fascinated at how it operates. It's just like a grocery store, and I don't know, I felt great, and being a part of it. But I also always felt like the people who came in were so grateful to have the opportunity to come in there and shop with dignity in a way as well. And I just think it's just a fantastic model.
Thank you. Just as important as the food that we provide for people's table is to have a good environment for people to come down and serve. I think that's just important, if not more important, for people to have a platform where they can serve the needs of others. We survey both our clients and our volunteers twice a year. And we just received our November survey for our clients. The number one by a long shot is the ability to come in and shop and pull their own product. It's the dignity and the respect. I mean, they're bringing children into the food banks now. The challenge that we're having is there's so much demand that it has taxed the volunteers and the staff. So we are now putting a system in place to go to appointments, which I think also brings some dignity back to the clients because now they don't have to stand in these long lines. Last summer, we went to restaurant buzzers. So instead of standing in line, we just hand them a buzzer, say, go wait in your warm car or your cool car, depending on the time of year, so they don't have to stand out in the elements. But we need to go to the next phase.
Thank you.
So can you talk to us about the backpack?
Backpack program, yes. Thank you. So
And
we
what-
support about 1,000 kids with backpacks. This is food that we pack in a bag and we deliver to all the local schools in the Sumner area. And the kids just grab the bag on the way out on Friday. This provides 3 square meals on Saturday and 3 square meals on Sunday. So provide some food over the weekend. You know, they get supplements during the week, but it's the weekend that we help support. And what's really neat about this is we have a special needs group of kids from the Puyallup School District. They come down and they put together the backpacks, the kits for the kids. So you have students serving students.
Is that 1,000 a year or 1,000 a month or a week?
It's 1,000 a month.
A month?
Yeah.
So that's huge. Okay, thank you.
They send the backpacks back?
No, we just put together just shopping bags.
Oh, okay.
And then when we drop them off at the school, the kids just grab them out. We've got a couple bins that they just walk by on the way out, grab it, put in their backpack and go.
Nice. Anybody else? No? Thank you, Anthony.
Next up is our Sumner Main Street Association Community. And Nicole Wilkie, the president of the board of the Sumner Main Street Association.
Good evening, council and mayor. My name is Nicole Wilsey. I am president of Sumner Main Street Association and owner of Sparrow and Nightingales on Main Street. I am here this evening to share with you the impact of the Community Partners Grant awarded to us for the 2023-24 years and how it has been invested in the community. The purpose of Sumner Main Street Association, or SMSA for short, is to stimulate economic growth and revitalization, enhance beautification, nurture historic preservation, and ensure the vitality of downtown Sumner. We are a Washington State accredited program through the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation. We operate under a 4-point approach to accomplish this mission. Through each of these branches, economic vitality, design, promotion, and outreach, we are able to impact the community and bring health and vitality to the heart of Sumner. Because of this, we are in a unique position to represent both small business owners, building owners and community investors, and local residents. While we also create partnerships with other entities operating within our city, like you, our local government. As a nonprofit group, we are reliant on our partners to help us accomplish the goals that will have a positive impact on the vitality of downtown Sumner and the city as a whole. I would like to thank you for awarding us this grant in 2023. This grant has been an integral part of our efforts. Rhubarb Days, although called other things over the years, has been an important part of our city's heritage and has been the catalyst for Sumner's reputation for tourism and shoppability. SMSA got its start as a promotions organization, and so we are good at putting on a party downtown. Rhubarb Days is our largest effort to build Sumner in the hearts and minds of visitors and locals alike. Your support is what makes Rhubarb Days possible. This event alone brings in more than 30 to 35,000 attendees in one weekend. On top of 150 vendors, 20 food trucks, and about 10 bands. Because of the scope of this event, our main expenses are administrative costs and the movables, as I like to call them. The foundation for this event has expenses like office staffing, permit fees, restrooms, garbage, security, etc. These funds make it possible to guarantee the immovables are set in place before we even get to the fun stuff, like music, food, and rhubarb. For the fun stuff, we usually look for sponsorships from local donors that will grow the relationships between our local business anchors, like Knutson Farms, to our new customers drawn in by a good street fair. Throughout 2023, we also hosted other events, including 2 sip and strolls, block party, Classy Chassis, as well as partnering with the Arts Commission for Music Off Main and Nights on Ryan. Our in-store events were Spring into Sumner and Hometown Holiday, giving the shops some seasonal shopping boosts to reinforce the goal of building a reputation for Sumner's shopping district. All in all, a good year. As we move into the new changes and projects for Sumner's future, SMSA is looking for opportunities and responsibilities to build on our strong, lasting traditions like Rhubarb Days, as well as evolve with the opportunities that open up with growth. Each of our committees are working to accomplish goals that will meet the purpose of our mission for 2024. We're working on things like murals, mini markets, new business enticers for empty locations, and interactive relationships with our industrial businesses. We are also going to be working on building our relationships with our partners as well. So don't be surprised if you get invited to coffee. Thank you very much for your help with making downtown core memorable. And please remember us when you're looking for ways to grow the heart of downtown Sumner. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? No? No? You must have gave me a good
All of the
presentation.
information, thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
And feel free to reach out if you do have any others.
And our last presentation for tonight is Vadis, and Chris Christian, the CEO for Vadis, will be presenting.
Well, I don't have some fancy slides to show you, so I'm going to have to dazzle you verbally, clearly. Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting us have an opportunity to show you what happened with your money. What good did it do? So I want to take just a couple of seconds to familiarize people with Vadis who may not be as familiar as they could be about the services and stuff that we do. Interestingly, in 2024, it marks, we have been in Sumner for 50 years now. 50 years with this being our primary location. And Vadis has changed quite a bit. The first day we opened in Sumner, we helped 3 people with an intellectual disability to get a job. That's what we did. Today, we serve 1,250 people a month, and we are in 6 counties. And we have a number of programs besides employment, although that is still our primary operations. And people ask, well, where's this headquarters? Where do you run this from? And we say, from whence we started, Sumner. Maybe you've heard of it. So we're very proud of that. We're very proud of our role and the fact that we're rooted here. Specifically, in terms of the money that you gave to us, the whole heart and soul of what Vadis does primarily is employment for people, getting people with disabilities a job, and then helping them to keep it. And then another big piece we do is housing, but that's a little bit unrelated to this, but it's similar to Mikasa, only with a disability edge to it. That's what we do with people with disabilities. In the world of employment and employment for people with disabilities, the last 15 to 20 years has really changed it to say, you have to get with kids in high school. You have to get them while they're still in the school, because there's an enormous breakdown between 12 years or 13 or 14 years of entitlement of going to public ed. And then when you graduate, nothing's entitled anymore. And people graduate to the couch. And that's what has been happening for a very long time. And so what has happened is we have been charged with the challenge of getting into the high schools, which is mixing the private sector with the public sector, because schools tend to operate in an island format, and they have their credentials, and they have their teachers, and they have their classrooms, and they have the students. So what we and many others like us have done has said, okay, we need to get them while they're in the school. So that means we have to come to you. Okay, teachers can't leave the school. So whatever needs to be done with those students with disabilities of all kinds of disabilities happens inside the school. We have built a training and teaching curriculum with your funds that has allowed us to go into the Sumner School District. We have many high schools in the Tacoma School District, and we're just adding Orting as well. But Sumner, we have all 3 of your high schools. We go there regularly. We have a team of people who go in that can relate to the students and begin this curriculum of what is work, how do you get work, what are you going to need to know to be able to work, both now and when you graduate. The most ideal thing would be that you graduate with a job. Now, it might not be your forever job, and it's not once you have that, you have to stay there forever, but there's so much that young people need to know that they do not know when they're in high school, and they get out into the world of work and they snap back at their supervisor and they don't show up, and a million other things that we are dealing with now in the last 2 years of their high school experience, so that when they move on, they have a job or they have experience, and it's not this waking up one day, so well, where's the big yellow taxi? What am I gonna do for the rest of my life with a job? So your money gave us the ability to build curriculum. This pre-employment training services is what it's called, is statewide. Vadas is the largest provider of those services in the state. And so we're looked at to, how is it going in Sumner? What's the model of the curriculum in Sumner? How many students come to those classes? We go into the classrooms and the teachers step aside, and we take over that hour or two in the various high schools, and we teach the curriculum. What have we learned in doing this for the last 2 years, which is what the startup was? One has been, when we get feedback from the teachers, certainly in Sumner, is you have to take the curriculum and simplify it. And then when we did that, they said, you have to take that curriculum and simplify it again, because students with disabilities have a harder time keeping up and keeping pace with abstract concepts. So we have to make it real to them, what it means in their life every day when they get up. What is this listening to your supervisor? What is this respecting those around you? What does it mean to be paid? What do you do with the pay? Who are these FICA people of which you speak? You know, I mean, it's all kinds of things that they have no clue about. And that's why we are building this curriculum, and we're a role model for all of the other programs that are wanting to do this as it unfolds around the state. So again, we focus heavily on getting to those kids in their last 2 or even 3 years of school, so that we can get them thinking about working. And this doesn't mean it can't be a college track or whatever else other folks do, but this is the data shows us a very significant piece for those students to be job ready, or certainly job readier than they otherwise would be. I want to say one other little thing while I'm up here, and that is, it's a point of trivia, so this doesn't come out of my 5 minutes, in that many years ago, we bought some property on that end of town, and we had plans for this big expansion, and we were going to do this and we were going to do that. And we owned it, and we were approached by the Rotary, who literally begged us to sell them that property. And we said, well, hello, you know, we're this thriving nonprofit, and we're doing cool things, and we need that building. And they sat down with us and said, we desperately need you to sell us that building. And we listened to them, and we said, okay, well, we'll try to partner with you the best we can. And we ultimately sold it to them, and it was the food bank. So that's where the current food bank is. And what could have been? I could have been in your office, but I'm glad we did that. I mean, it's all about the community coming together. So that's who we are, and that's what we do. And I can't thank you enough for the contribution that you make. It's a landmark thing that you put it in the budget, that you put it out to community organizations. So thank yourselves as well, because you're plowing new territory for cities.
Any questions? No?
I have one just.
Councilmember Cole.
I just have one question. In the meeting packet, there was talk about there being an issue with students' transportation. Can you explain that to us?
That is, when I meet with my staff who do this all throughout Pierce County, they say the number one issue is transportation, because people have to get to their jobs. And the majority, not every single case, but the vast majority of the students that we are working with do not drive, and likely will never drive and have the ability to get to work. So getting there is a huge thing. And this area is not renowned for its excess of transportation opportunities. That went away, you know, several years ago. So people have a hard time getting around. And if they can't get to the Sounder, or they can't get here, or they can't get there, what are you going to do? We know of every transportational resource that there is known to man, we're aware of it and hooking people up with it. Transportation is the number one problem. How are they going to get to work? Mom and dad work already.
No magic answer yet.
Renegotiate your whole relationship with Pierce Transit and have them back in here, and not just a runner up to the Bonnie Lake for the Sounder. I mean, but we've been there, and there's issues with that as well about why it went away.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Helfers.
Yeah, I'm just curious, can you tell me, what are the jobs that are the big What kind of jobs do you put people in that are working and what's changed in the last couple of years, if anything?
Well, COVID was a huge thing because, people that were working were precluded from going to their work and unless they were considered essential workers and all of that. But we get people jobs in all kinds of venues, retail and entry level and animal husbandry and agricultural and assembly and manufacturing. We have people in all kinds. We have dozens of people employed throughout the Sumner locale. Everywhere I go, I can see that we've had someone here, someone there. Another feature we did last summer was part of this thing is during the summer when kids not in school, they do internships. They do paid internships where they go out and they have to work 20 hours a week at any of these locations that are pre-established to get that in the trench work experience. So we did that last year, and that's a lot of stories in and of itself because it's their first foray into the reality of, no, you have to work. You have to actually do stuff, and here's how it's gonna look. Well, no, you gotta put your phone away. No, it's not gonna fly now. I could go on and on about the reality of that.
Anybody else? Anybody?
Thank you much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I hope you found that as valuable as I did.
Yeah.
Always very interesting. And this year, we're in the budget process. Well, I don't know if we're quite in it yet, but we're gonna be in it. And we will be going through a similar process that we did in 2022, where we will be allowing our community members, and I'm sure you'll see some of these folks again, coming in to present through that process as well, seeking our community partners fund.
Great, thank you. All right, moving on to city administrator report.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing I wanted to remind council that we do have a special study session next week. It is a fifth Monday, but we do have a meeting. We're going to discuss two things. First, we're going to discuss a resolution for an interlocal agreement with the city of Bonnie Lake for wastewater treatment facility management. And the second thing is we'll be giving an overview of all of our facility needs and challenges that we're working through right now. We will have a few items that we want some specific input from council on. We'll be sure to point those out as we get to them in our presentation. The other thing I would be remiss if I didn't mention, we are still accepting applications for the council vacancy, and that closes next week. More information can be found on our website, just on our homepage. There's a bar that goes across the middle of the page, and just look for council vacancy. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any council meeting issues? Or any? That's it. And we have no executive session. So I will adjourn the meeting at 7:00.